Okay, well, thank you, Tolkien Society, and welcome everyone. And I feel very honored to get the proceedings started. My project is on the intersections of religion, fantasy, and translation, with a specific case study of reading Tolkien in Chinese. Today, I'm looking at 3 translations of The Lord of the Rings. For the China market by multiple translators for the Yilin Press, for the Taiwan market by Zhu Shuiheng, and for the China market by Taiwan-based translator Deng Jiawan. I'm particularly interested in the categories of unreal beings, but along with elves and trolls and talking trees, The Lord of the Rings references a strange creature, I think we can all probably agree exists in the real world, namely human beings, or as Tolkien calls them, men. Obviously, this usage, man or men, when referring to human beings in general, now feels very dated, although outside of the Academy, it isn't quite dated enough. The 1970s and 80s saw an uptick in resistance to this androcentrism. It would be hard to imagine Jacob Bronowski's The Ascent of Man, 1973, being produced by the BBC today, and Houston Smith's 1958 The Religions of Man became The World's Religions in its revised edition of 1991. Nonetheless, when we read older books that talk about man this and men that, we have to do some mental editing. Tolkien belonged to not only an age, but also a social world in which this androcentric usage was pervasive. He has Elrond say, for example, "Farewell, and may the blessings of elves and men and all free folk go with you." For men, all 3 Chinese translations of this line give "zhenlei," humankind, a gender-neutral term. Clearly, from the context and the capital M, we know Elrond cannot mean the blessings of all elves of any gender, but somehow only male people. The Chinese language is certainly capable of encoding patriarchy, but in this particular case, it does not. Yet not all uses of man in The Lord of the Rings are quite so easily gender neutralized. Indeed, one of the key plot points of the whole story hinges on the androcentric ambiguity of man. And here I need to point out that one of the fundamental differences between Chinese and English is that English, being alphabetic, has capital letters, and Chinese, being logographic, does not. This is not a trivial difference. Our text itself problematizes the upper and lower cases. When Gandalf introduces Pippin to the people of Gondor, he says, "His name is Peregrine, a very valiant man." And Ingold asks, "Man?" And Pippin replies, "Man, man, indeed. Indeed not, I am a hobbit." Gandalf seems to be using man to mean male person. He might have said, "a very valiant fellow." But Ingold takes man to mean human and questions it, and Pippin reads man the same way, but rejects it. Sometimes man is ambiguous because of gender, and sometimes because of species. The key Chinese term here, ren, has some ambiguity. They're not about gender. It can mean human, or it can mean person. Pippin is a person, but not a human. Gung's translation reads, "His name is Peregrine. He is an extremely valiant ren." Ren? Ren, I'm not. I am a hobbit ren. It goes back and forth. A brave person ren, a human ren, no, a brave person, a hobbit person ren. Zhu makes it explicit. He is called Peregrine. He is an extremely brave Ren, and Ingold says Ren. And then Pippin says, Renlay, human being, Renlay, I'm not, I am a hobbit Ren. The model of Pippin's classification, as it moves into Chinese, might be no more than a slight distraction, another example of a source text using a single word, which must be translated into different words in the target language, depending on context. There are many similar cases, such as the Hobbit's term, the big people, and Éomer's, how shall a man judge what to do in such times? But there is one place where this problem is crucial to the story itself. Éowyn falls in love with Aragorn, but is gently rebuffed, and she begins to actively seek her own death in battle. She dresses up as a man, takes a man's name. Like Queen Elizabeth, she claims the heart of a man. Along the way, taking pity on Merry, who has likewise been excluded from military service. Finally, they plunge into the Battle of Pelennor Fields. King Theoden is mortally wounded and lies unprotected. When the monstrous Witch King approaches to finish him off, Éowyn confronts the enemy. Do what thou wilt, but I will hinder it if I may. Hinder me, thou fool, no living man may hinder me. But no living man am I. You look upon a woman. Why is the Witch King so very confident he can't be killed? As you undoubtedly know, Glorfindel made a prophecy. The Witch King was fleeing a defeat, and Glorfindel told others not to pursue him. Far off yet is his doom, and not by the hand of man will he fall. Note the small m man, not a man or capital M man. Here we have the ungrammatical small m man, which we might blame on the transcription of Glorfindel's utterance. After all, we can't actually hear upper and lower cases. Tolkien wanted to leave it ambiguous, so he seems careless here. Glorfindel's words are buried away in an appendix, but Gandalf repeats it in the story itself. Not by the hand of a man shall he fall. Not by the hand of man shall he fall. The problem is that when the Witch King says, no living man may hinder me, he thinks, and we think, he means no one, or possibly no human being. But when Éowyn says, no living man am I, she's saying, I'm alive, and I'm human, but I'm not male. As if no one had ever imagined a woman might stab him. So the original contains a kind of verbal trick or riddle. Tolkien plays bait and switch so as to obscure the possibility that Éowyn might kill the Witch King, so as to heighten our sense of danger to Éowyn. Éowyn's femininity functions as a kind of magic here, a kind of partial immunity. Her helm comes off and her bright hair, released from its bonds, gleamed with pale gold upon her shoulders. When the Witch King seems about to kill her, Merry gets a stab in again, as the bad guy says, while being loose about the capital M, no man can stop me because Merry is not a man, but a hobbit, as Pippin vigorously insisted earlier, a difference of species, not gender. Between them, they kill him, a man who is not a man, and a man who is not a man. If we take Glorfindel's words to mean male persons, it's technically true, since the Witch King is hindered but not killed by Merry. If we take it to mean human beings, it's not true. How do the translations handle all this? In the Eilin edition, the volume was translated by Tang Jingjiu. The key moment of dialogue is, in the world, there is not that person meonega able to stop me. Just wait for me to deal with you. So the Éowyn edition has no person or human being can stop me, not gender specific, but only loosely species specific, since he does not quite say that no human, Renlay, can kill me. But Éowyn's reply ignores the issue. She just says, wait till I deal with you. No one can stop me, I'll give it a try. Éowyn's version of Glorfindel's prophecy has the hand of ordinary people, Reinders, cannot seize him. It's not much of a prophecy. It sounds like a bit of a put down. Let him go. It'll take more than you ordinary people to catch him. For Gandalf's repetition of the line, tongue is not much better. Other people, J.R.R, cannot strike him dead. But the translation by Zhu Xuehang does better. All the world's masculine heroes, Yin Xiong Hao Han, have no way to stop me. I am not some kind of masculine hero. Before your eyes is a woman. The phrase Yin Xiong Hao Han is strongly masculine. Han has the sense of maleness, as in Lao Han, old man, or Da Han, big man. Yin means hero, not particularly gendered. Xiong means male, virile, as used in combinations for male animals in medical terms such as testosterone. Maleness itself is xiong xing, male nature. So Zhu gets the gender issue. No masculine hero can stop me. I'm not one of those masculine heroes. I'm a woman. But Zhu cannot capture the shift from man as person to man as male. It's not as if the Witch King fears that some cowardly backstabber might do him in. Zhu's translation of Glorfindel's prophecy also has Yin Xiong Hao Han, and Glorfindel's words remain a somewhat accurate prophecy because Éowyn is not male, though Éowyn becomes one of the greatest heroes of the whole story. Even the talented Deng Jiawan cannot solve this puzzle. Deng's version of Glorfindel's remark is, he cannot die by a person's or a human's hand. Here, Glorfindel is simply incorrect. Then there is no living person that can stop me, Huoren, but I am not a living male person, Huozhe de Nanren. What you face is a female person. The Witch King says, no one alive can kill me, and Éowyn says, I'm not alive and male. So Deng is fully aware of the problem and tries to resolve the issue in two ways, by slipping in male and by inserting a footnote on the phrase Huoren. Huoren, living person, can also be translated as living male person. Here it has two connotations. However, her assertion here is somewhat ad hoc. There is nothing inherently gendered about Huoren. She also footnotes the passage in the appendices on Éowyn's title, Lady of the Shield Arm. What Glorfindel said to King J.R.R a long time ago came true. The Witch King could not die by a person's hand, Ren Shou. In English, man can be translated as humankind, Ren Lei, and also can be translated as male person, Nanren. Even though I don't agree with Umberto Eco that a footnote is always a sign of weakness on the part of the translator, it registers as an interruption. At first sight, these seem to be cases of failure. None of the three translators can catch the trick. But I do not hold the defeatist view of translations with its emphasis on loss reducing retellings to lesser versions of the same story. Although Tolkien doubted that a translation of his work can be performed satisfactorily without the assistance of the author, On Fairy Stories strongly supports the integrity of variant retellings, which must surely include translations. Following the broad consensus in translation studies, I treat translations as stories in themselves. From one point of view, with the original text and 3 translations, we still have only one story. From another perspective, we have 4 so far. While there is an obvious relation between the original text and the various translations, they are not the same story. Even the most faithful of translations is to be considered as iteration, as repetition with a difference, a mode of textual proliferation rather than a mode by which semantic content is transferred. So, pretend now that this is the first time you were reading Lord of the Rings and you're reading it in Chinese, or even imagine that Tolkien wrote it in Chinese. The Éowyn edition ignores the gender aspect and emphasizes Éowyn's suicidal fury because she shows no sign of any hope. I am invincible. I don't care. Éowyn has been seeking her own death, at least since Aragorn rejected her. This is surely the northern theory of courage, not Éowyn cottoning on to the trick with a glimmer of hope, but persisting in the face of apparently inevitable failure. Ju catches the gendered aspect, but also features Éowyn's denial that she's a hero. This after her previous protestations about not being allowed to fight in the war, and her angry assertions of her own martial skills. Ju's translation hints that she might be wising up a little, and indeed, after she has recovered, she moves into a traditional romantic relationship with Faramir, and they live happily ever after. It also implies she has no hope. If all these great macho heroes can't kill you, what chance do I have? Yet I will try. Dung's version blurs the question with this non sequitur insertion of Éowyn's the adjective male, but she also seems to deny that she's alive, perhaps showing her full embrace of the inevitability of her death. By the very inability to reproduce the trick of man/man, the Chinese versions are forced to depict Éowyn as even more despairing and therefore even braver than in the original. Thank you very much.